And thanks for staying with us here on PM Express. As you know, government over the last few months has been trying to push royalties up, royalties that will govern the mining sector. Not only gold, by the way, but of course, the focus is on gold because of what is happening on the global market. And as it is, what it means is the current mining companies in this country, if that law is passed, will have to pay significantly more. There is something really unprecedented happening, which was first reported by Reuters. There is a push now against this by global superpowers like China and the United States. So government is under pressure on this particular matter. Now, what really do we know tonight? We know that that particular piece of legislation that went to Parliament, that if it matures, will impose a sliding scale. First time we are implementing this in the extractive industry on the various companies in the mining sector. It's been before Parliament, and we've been counting down to 21 sittings of Parliament. As we speak today was the final 21st day, which means that tomorrow morning it becomes law. And already the US and other countries are warning Ghana that there will be consequences if we go ahead with this. But of course, it's law. It's the way our constitution is structured. Parliament is structured same. It has become law. Indeed, unless we hear something that changes this outcome, this is what we're going to go with. We're going to get some clarity on this. So in spite of the pressure, which I'll just illustrate pretty shortly, we are seeing that this particular piece of legislation should become law by close of today. And of course, Parliament is already closed. So today was a sitting. Tomorrow morning, you expect this to take full effect, and the government should go into implementation. What does this mean? Currently, the royalty rate is 5%. Once this becomes law tomorrow morning, it's now going to be oscillating between 5 to 12%. This is what we call the sliding scale. When the global price of gold, for example, is high, the companies will pay more. When, of course, it drops, they pay less. And so currently, with gold prices at record highs, you expect them to pay significantly more. And if indeed it drops, again, they will pay less. It's a sliding scale. That's what it means fundamentally. And we've seen the pressure now coming from Australia, South Africa, Canada, China, United States, of course, and these two have significant influence and sway at various levels, and they are beginning to squeeze and leverage that particular power to get Ghana to back off. But as you know, as you just explained, this 21 sittings have already now passed and is lapsed, which means that the law comes into effect tomorrow. Now, key point that really has led to the triggering of these various interests, the global interests, is because if you look locally, 80% of the mining sector is controlled by foreign interests. Only 20% is controlled by local interests. And that is a campaign that one of our guests has been waiting for so long, Steve Mateo, who has been making the point that we need to find a way and empower more Ghanaians to take control of our mining sector, the extractive sector. But this is the current reality. And so if you're squeezing your nationals, your businesses in Ghana, you expect that they will complain. And they're beginning to pile pressure on us. They've already done representations, according to Reuters, or our government, with subtle threats about potential repercussions and even reprisals as far as the trade war is concerned on this matter, because we have interest in other countries also. So you're looking at the share here. You look at, for example, where's the big one? The US interest in the extractive sector is just 8%. Canada has 20%, but China has 32%. And as you know, we have our hands in China's mouth on many issues. And look at the construction sector, for example. We want to promote that particular relationship in terms of the many economic benefits that we get from China in terms of soft loans, but also infrastructure development. And so they are using that leverage to squeeze us a bit now and saying, if you do that, our firms operating in the extractive sector will suffer. They control 32% of that particular sector. You need to back off. And that, some say, is interference in the sovereign actions and affairs of a country. But do they really care? It's fundamentally about interest as far as that is concerned. If you look at the current gold mining fiscal regime, there's a cumulative set of fiscal measures that places a single burden on those in the extractive industry. 5% royalty, 35% corporate income tax, and a host of others. And they consistently point to this cumulative impact and tell us that, in effect, you're talking about 60 to 68% impact on them when you look at the effective tax rate on the businesses in the extractive sector, those who operate there. If this particular provision takes effect tomorrow, it's going to move from some 50 to 60% to 60 to 68%. They say that is a burden they cannot bear, and so they want our government to back off, completely scrap this whole idea and stick to your 5%. And they put it within the broader context of the continent. They tell us that if we go ahead with this, 21 days has elapsed, what is going to happen is we're going to be not one, the highest regime, fiscal regime in the in Africa when it comes to the burden that will be borne by operators in the extractive sector. So Ghana currently is at 5%. And if you see that, you have other countries like Mali that is at 10.5%. If you now factor in what we're now going to see take effect on tomorrow, that then moves it all the way to say 12% under the current circumstances. That will place us above Mali and will be one of the countries with the harshest fiscal regime in terms of its burden on the players in the extractive industry. So they're looking at this particular permutation and say if you do that, Ghana is going to become very unattractive to those who play in the sector. And you also need stability. And a lot of the companies have signed stability clauses. But what would this mean for them? Because stability clauses are exactly what they are. They're supposed to give you stability over a long period of time. And yet you cannot be changing fiscal regime in the midstream after you've approved those stability clauses. And so that throws up a whole legal conversation that I believe we'll explore tonight. And if you look at where gold is currently, it makes good sense for a country like Ghana with a dire need of revenue to do this. And I must make the point, civil society players have been campaigning for a sliding scale form of fiscal regime for a long time in the upstream oil and gas sector. It has been proposed, but government had not really come around to adopting it. This government is being very bold indeed and saying we're going to go ahead with this. So the question is, should we listen to these superpowers, US, China, and others, or we should just stick to our guns and do what we know is right for this economy? And I know that if you know Ato Forsing, who's been here many times, he's been very candid with us that he's only going to take that road that will benefit this economy, and not because some other country says so. That is what he calls the autonomics. We're talking about 23 billion that we've raked in over royalties over the period. What have we done with it is a fundamental question that we should be asking. But the trend of revenue for minerals has shown that it's been going up. But it's gone up, the highest has been in 2025 because, as you know, you have the Growth and Sustainability Levy that also came into force, which was an additional burden on the players in there, was increased to some 3%. But if you look at the total breakdown of the various taxes that they need to pay and what we've been getting in, corporate taxes brought in 10.3 billion. You have a total of 17.6 billion. If you look at the 2024 breakdown of 2024 mining and revenue to the state. So clearly something is happening here that was benefiting Ghana. And Ghana says, well, we need to now change the regime slightly. So we are fair to this country when gold prices go up. And when it comes down, then of course the companies also benefit. They're shouting now because of where it is at $5,000 dollars an ounce. So key questions. The Ghana Chamber of Mines, they've been raising fundamental issues about this. We have their guests on the show to articulate them. Rates excessively high. They believe this is not going to be good for the industry. Considering all the things they do, they talk about some companies may scale down, which means that they may have to lay off workers. They will articulate those big points for us tonight. Stay with us here on PMX. There's a big conversation indeed about Ghana in the eye of this big storm. And we have global superpowers now pushing back against our attempt to increase our royalties. What the fuss? Why this big fuss? And what should government of Ghana's position be on it? Stay with us. Thanks for staying with us here on PM Express. It's always brought to you by Syntex Tanks. It is strong, it is tough. Pepsodent Cavity Fighter toothpaste and Stanbic CIB Impact Series. And if you're talking water tanks, then you have to look no further than the tank with the tortoise on it. The Syntex tanks, they're durable. Find them across the country and call them also. It is strong, it is tough. Also, Every time we eat, food and sugars are trapped between our teeth. And that is why, before you sleep tonight, you need to look for the Pepsodent Cavity Fighter, because it guarantees you protection and cleaner, whiter teeth also. Now, some see challenges, but they see opportunities. Where others spot risk, they unlock value. At Stanbic Corporate Investment Banking, they partner with businesses driving Ghana and Africa's growth, from energy to mining, infrastructure to trade, to influence ideas and enterprises that really will empower economies. You want to call them across the country on 030-281-5789. My guest joining me tonight for a conversation, an all-important conversation on the back of reports last week that the superpowers, including China and the US and others, are piling pressure on our government on the back of government decision to change the fiscal regime and add on a sliding scale. Let's have a conversation on that, especially when we know that today was the 21st day, because the counting as far as the parliamentary procedure is concerned, that particular revision of the act becomes law tomorrow morning. Ahmed Naktoma is the Chief Operating Officer of the Ghana Chamber of Mines and joins us in the studio. Patrick Stevenson is a Country Manager, Natural Resource Governance Institute. He's also with me here in the studio. Kwesi Kunedu is a Deputy Ranking Member on the Lands and Natural Resources Committee, MP for Mensah North. Is with me in the studio. Pakwesi Shandov is Media Relations Officer, Lands and Natural Resources Ministry, is also with me in the studio. And Dr. Steve Mateo, a co-chair, Ghana Extractive Industry Transparency Initiative. I know he was very instrumental in the discussions that led to the birth of the sliding scale concept. And I know he's been pushing this for a long, long time for the upstream petroleum sector. He got a deal with the extractive, specifically the gold sector. And so I'm sure he's been happy until he's heard the news of what really is happening. And Steve, I want to start with you, though. Right. So let's start with the legislation itself. Well, what is it? What exactly is it proposing to do?
You see, the Act 703 was amended, and we provided that the minister shall prescribe the royalty rate for mining companies in Ghana. But in the absence of that prescription, the status quo will remain. So 5%, which was what the companies were paying at the time, remain until now. And I think this whole discussion came about as a result of this lithium deal. And so we realized that there was a need for the minister to now prescribe. Now, I recall that as far back as in 2012, my committee, that is the Ghana Extractive Industry Transparency Initiative, proposed to government to adopt a windfall tax for the mining sector. Because, we're dealing with a commodity, and commodity go through boom and bust cycles. So resource owners want to position themselves to be able to cream off a bit of the extra profit during the boom periods. And so we proposed, at the time, I recall the gold price was around $1,600. So the industry kicked back and said, look, this is not the time to be talking about, extra profit tax. Prices are depressed. And so let's wait. When the right time is ripe, we can talk about this. And so we left it. But in the oil sector, around the same time when we're developing the Petroleum Revenue Management Framework, we provided for an extra profit tax in the form of an additional oil entitlement. So as we speak, in fact, I think last year, one of the companies, I'm not too sure, it must be Petro SA, paid extra profit tax to the state because it had exceeded the threshold and without compulsion, willingly paid the extra profit tax. So every resource, especially if it's a commodity that goes through a boom and bust cycle, you need an arrangement that enables you to cream off a bit of the extra profit that companies make during the boom periods. And so this is what has brought us here. Because we did not have an extra profit tax arrangement in the mining sector, we decided to go for the alternative, which is a sliding scale. sliding scale allocates risk and benefits equitably. So when the price goes up, we all share the enjoyment, the benefits of the boom. And when the price becomes depressed, the companies pay less and government also get less. So we move up and down based on the price movements and therefore the profitability of the mine. I think that makes sense for me, and I see that as an alternative to the windfall tax. They all serve the same purpose. But what has brought all this discussion and the concerns from some of our development partners, the American embassy and some of the development partners have spoken to me and raised these concerns. I do not think we had adequate consultations, especially in establishing the price bands or the thresholds at which the various royalty rates kick in. And so some feel disadvantaged. Again, if you look at the industry, the three biggest companies that produce the bulk of our gold are Newmont, Anglo Gold, and Goldfields. They have stability agreements. So this particular new royalty regime will not be applicable to them. That, you agree, creates some discrimination because the majority of the companies, the 15 or so that are on their own, a lot of them are struggling. But some are Ghanaian, like Adamus Resources, Asante Gold and all that. And then we have Namdini coming on board and all. These are Ghanaian companies. They are going to have to pay 12%. It's a challenge for them because even some of the bigger companies that have been around longer are struggling with the operations.
Okay, so that is in essence what the bill, it's going to become law tomorrow.
Yeah.
And once it becomes law tomorrow, you expect that the companies will begin to pay immediately.
Yeah.
Patrick, give me your sense of this. I know NRG was also very instrumental in the consultations. So what do you expect to happen tomorrow, knowing the architecture behind that legislation?
Well, Evan, so a number of things will happen, as soon as this, goes into gear. But before I respond to that specifically, I think we have to put some of the numbers in context a little bit, right? And I agree with, the submissions of Steve in terms of where we have come from and where we are. Look, the reality is that I don't think there's anybody who's looking at the prices of gold today and somewhat will tell you. And gold is not the only mineral that we have applied this to, by the way, right? But again, it happens to be this traditional mineral that matters as far as the structure of the economy is concerned. Nobody will tell you that prices are going to dip below $4,500, not in the next 24, 36 months. So for the government to get ahead of this, and as part of having the conversations around what will happen with lithium, make some of these provisions, I think it gives us a sense that the government is thinking, in the direction that majority of us had expected, given the reforms that we have seen from 2006, 2010, 2015, and now. So if you take prices clearly, I mean, for the next maybe 24, 36 months, prices are going to be quite elevated. What does that mean for our own take, as a country? And I guess perhaps that's where the question of consultation comes in. Again, I'm not too sure. And we've got Shandov here. I mean, he can provide a bit of context on what consultations were. But I know that at least civil society, when the lithium question came up, significant engagements on that. It came in some cases after the fact, right? But at least there was the room to have a discussion around the proposition that was on the table. Civil society is just one part of the equation. You've got the private sector there. So if there was very limited consultation on the private sector side or the development community side, that immediately begins to give cause for worry. Again, we should equally appreciate that consultation does not necessarily mean everybody's view is going to matter at the end of the day, right? Because ultimately, a decision has to be made, okay? Generally, the expectation will be that if we consult, the views that we articulate will be views that feed into policy. But a policymaker has got to make a decision at the end of the day. So even when we had done some work on lithium, and some of the conclusions we had come to at the time were to the effect that the rate that was negotiated for royalties by the SWAL regime, we could have done better. 10%, then when we run the numbers, the effective rate of taxes, for example, that agreement would have generated would have been in excess of about 60%. Fairly high compared to some of the other countries you have in the region. The indications we got from that work was that if we're thinking purely on royalties for the minerals that the country has been producing for years, maybe anchoring that to the prices at terminals made a lot more sense. Why? There were several technical developments in the market that will create what Steve has categorized as windfalls. Should we as a country position ourselves to get a little bit of that? Okay, so we had done that. Gold came into that question and conversation as well. But after the approval, for me, one of the things that I went back and looked at the bill and the proposition was the point at which some of we had triggers for the royalty rates to kick in. If you take gold below $1,900, the rate is 5%. The next $100 band gives you 6%. So from $1,900 to $2,000, you have an extra 1% that is going to be paid. Between $2,000 and up until you get to $4,500, every $500 attracts, an additional percentage point. Now, those bands, do they necessarily sit within the structural operations of our mines today? And if they kick in, do they...
What's your answer to that question?
Well, we've got the chamber here, so...
No, I'll ask him. I mean, no. they are interested party in this.
Fair point.
That's what you actually come into my original question, which is what happens tomorrow.
So that's why I'm getting to.
So tomorrow they pay full 12%.
Again,
that's the upper end of the band.
You've got an administrative process for the implementation of the law that has to be followed through. So it's not to say tomorrow somebody starts paying.
No, I know. I mean, what we're assuming that it takes effect and all of that boxes are checked. And if you're looking at the triggering mechanisms,
yes.
Which band are you triggering? 12?
Well, you may trigger
11, 10?
You may trigger,
considering what the price is.
You may trigger 12%, subject to whether or not that agreement or license that contractor has with government gives room for a retrospective application of the law.
That is, if they don't have a subsisting stability agreement.
Yes, and I doubt there's anybody who went to government, negotiated a lease, and didn't think of a possibility of protecting their.
But for those without, or those who have expired stability clauses, this should apply.
This should apply for 12%. It will apply subject to the administrative arrangements that will be put in. But so I think I have had the conversation with the chamber, and I've indicated that we are more than happy to run the numbers and get to some very fine conclusions. But the preliminary computations we've done that I believe informed the position we had held about what it means for us to have the sliding scale royalty. And Ghana is not the only country that has gone this route. You have different shapes and forms of it that have been implemented at different countries, right? Yeah. Chile is there, that has some very interesting.
Let me ask Ahmed. Ahmed, so were you consulted adequately on this?
Thank you, Ivan. So it's interesting you ask this question because to be frank, we were called into a meeting to discuss it, to discuss something on royalties. And then when we got into that meeting, the proposals were put out there that this is what government intends to do for the mining sector. Then we said, wait a minute, this is just too sudden. Let's give ourselves time to go and study it. But even then we provided some counter proposals as to where we think that, look, we can get a sweet spot, a spot where government can still make more money and the companies do not become worse off. Otherwise, anything beyond that, it could lead to job losses, etc., etc. Well, like you said, it's not every consultation that you make that you are listened to, but you are not accepted. So we were listened to at that one point, but what we said was not acceptable. It didn't gain any changes, and then government went ahead.
Because I get the sense that in the consultations that happened, and Steve wasn't there, that the majority in the room agreed that the sliding scale approach was a way to go.
Now, in terms of sliding scale, everybody said, if it's sliding, it follows the price.
Exactly.
But like you said, for every $500 increase, there's a 1% increase in royalties.
So the bands are so close.
And we even said, look, why don't you even make $1,000?
Exactly.
And then why don't you start like maybe from 4 and sliding to about 8?
Instead of 12.
Instead of 12. Because when you do 4 to 8, don't forget that we have a GSL, which is of 3%. And the 3% is, when you convert to royalties, it becomes like 4.6%. So if we add the GSL to the current, to the 8%, we're going to about 12. But now if you add GSL now to the 12, we're going to about 16 point something.
So that's the effective rate.
Yeah, even though the minister has said that we'll take 2% off. So even if it takes 2% off the GSL, we talk about 13.6%. Overnight increase. Companies have gone into transactions, they've had long-term 20-year plans with a 5%. So wait a minute, let's arrange, let's talk with companies, let's work with scenarios whereby we can have a spot whereby government can get that. And the companies also understand that it means government gets more, companies stay in business, the jobs are maintained, and there can be more exploration, there can be expansion. Now the gold price is high, most companies will not be able to mine the low-grade areas. So then they can expand.
Yeah.
Yes, but so that was our proposition, and we gave it to the minister and all that. But like I said, a decision had to be taken, and that was the decision that was taken.
So effective tomorrow, if all the administrative processes are addressed, your members begin to pay this.
Yes, they'll begin to pay that.
Of course, it's legislation, so you have no choice in the matter from tomorrow.
Yes, unless something drastic happens or we decide to do something that...
Have you decided to do something?
No, well, that's something that we are looking at. Because we have to look at the long-term impact, and even for Ghana. We are talking about Ghana. People have said foreign companies are pushing. No. Even if a Ghanaian company invests in another country and there's something inimical, government will intervene. So they are just cautioning us that, look, we need to be careful what we are doing with this, our hen that's laying the golden egg.
So what are your members without stability clause? Two questions. First, those without stability clauses,
yes,
they are ready to start paying, or they still want to make some representations to government to say, hold on.
Yeah,
what's the thinking there?
We are still interested in government. Government can...
it's law now, so the conversation is out of government.
It can be tweaked. The law, government puts in the law. Government can decide to change the law, can withdraw it, can amend it. And that's why we are hoping that...
And if they don't, you still pay?
If they don't, then you are, as a good corporate citizen, you are forced to pay.
Okay.
So you are paying through your nose. It doesn't mean that you can... Because if you don't pay, you become an illegal company. You will pay, but then it will have repercussions.
So you adopt a coping strategy.
Exactly, you have to cope.
What sort of repercussions are you talking? I'm sure you should have modeled this by now.
Exactly, that's why I'm
modeled this
so
by now. What would that mean for your members?
Companies have modeled. There's a company that went to take about $170 million to do a cutback. Now at 5%. Now it's going to 12%. So if it goes to the 12%, that investment has become very questionable.
Okay.
And if they're able to do the cutback, they will have to scale down the operations.
So they
might lay off
workers. Okay.
Over 1,300 people could easily just lose.
And the mine workers union will come after you.
No, they won't come after us because the company has to survive. Because you have to now do small to manage. A lot of companies are in that scenario that if nothing is done and this kicks in, today you might think that we are getting revenues, but 2 years or even 1 year down the line, you will see that companies will start shrinking. And once they start shrinking, the jobs will start going down. And that is where we'll feel the impact. Don't say, don't do that. Give us an 8% plus 1. That 8% is the royalties that we'll pay. The 1% will be on net.
Okay.
So that 1% will then be tied into projects, specific projects for community development. So that people will know that as the gold price went up, there was a 1% that we got
came directly to the community.
Into the community. Instead of just saying that at ab initio, revenue, gross revenue, you take royalties, you take GST.
And by the way, just on a lithium bid, Atlantic Lithium's the contract, their lease, has the community development fund built into it.
They have a 1%.
1% built into it.
But even the new law, the one that they are proposing, also has a community development, 1% community development.
Now let me ask you a question
that
about
one to it.
Those with stability clauses.
Yes.
From tomorrow, what will they be doing?
They are insulated.
Okay.
You have, unless of course government decides to renegotiate, but they are insulated.
Okay.
But even they are concerned because definitely at the end of the day,
it will catch on.
It will catch on with them. And if other companies shrink, and then it affects their business as well.
Akwesi, where do you stand on this? The minority side.
Evans, my position or our position has been that this is a hasty policy decision. Very hasty. It's just about 2 months and 20 days that this policy was drafted and brought and is matured. We are just boxing every single mineral or company into just one mathematical arrangement. So I don't see the role of the minister again in even supervising the ministry that he has. Why do you go into an agreement that already boxes you into a certain confinement? Just as Ahmed was saying, what is going to happen currently is that you are going to have all of these mining companies kicking back. Because first and foremost, there is no benefit that we are going to derive in this directly. We are only increasing our average tax rate, and that is going to affect the companies. They are not going to expand. They are not going to. But my problem is that every single agreement or concession or contract must be negotiated on its own merit and strength. Because all of these companies, just as we talk about 21 of them, are different. The mining, the geography of all the mining that they are going to do are also different. So why must you just set yourself up right away in trying to say that this is all that I'm going to do? And secondly, Evans, if you look at the proposals that the minister is also trying to give to compensate for this that he's done, is that he's proposing to reduce the GSL by 2%. It tells you he was in a haste and actually did not think through this policy as going to affect the mining companies and therefore want to compensate them some way. All of these arrangements came about with the discussion of the lithium agreement. When it was blocked in 2024, reintroduced in 2025, wanting to find an excuse of blocking it in 2024, as there was an illegality in the sense of the agreement, the proposals, and the negotiations that was done by the SWL administration, where we got 10% for that. The company was willing to rectify under 268 of our constitution. No problem. So you come in, now you draw gold in to justify your claim, because gold now have seen an upsurge in the prices, over 5,000. So now all the calculations that we are doing, they are looking at gold that they are using. So what if the prices of gold drop? My brother is saying about 24 to 36 months, you are not going to see a drop in price. You cannot be sure about that.
But if it drops, sliding scale means we get less.
So that is the unpredictability nature of this. Even as a country, we must be able to predict the average revenue that we are going to get. The companies that are also mining must be able to predict their expenditures. This complexity of this scale, how are you going to manage it? How is the accountability going to be like? Now you are asking, what are they going to do from tomorrow? Now, from tomorrow, it must kick in. So you are now going to calculate on daily basis when the prices go up. Or are we going to have a weighted average for a month? All of these things have to come. This is an airline. All of these things must be split.
No, you raised a very important point. So if tomorrow morning
the prices go to say 7,000, drops, the following day it comes to 4,000.
There's some global shock, as we've seen with oil. Overnight, Sunday to Monday, we were at almost 30% jump.
Yes.
That's very possible, depending on what happens somewhere in the world. Does that mean that from overnight, you're moving from, as you said, from, say, 5% to 8%?
No, it's an average for the month, right?
It's an average for the month,
provision in the law, right? So,
is it?
So you look at the average for the month and then that kicks in?
Yeah, they had an average for the month
runs on the daily basis.
London bullion market data point. So that is sort of taken care of. But I still see the point he's making, which is, the seasonal nature of what prices may look like. But like I'm saying, I mean,
but that can be taken care of. That can be taken care of
computationally.
If you look at what we've done in the petroleum,
I'll come back to you, don't worry. I just want
if you look at what we've done in the petroleum sector, we set up the stabilization fund to deal with these volatilities. Today you are high, tomorrow you are low. So in a particular period when you actually get more than projected revenue, you put the excess revenue into a fund. Then when the price drops, you can go into the fund, take money from there to shore up your budget. So there's a way in which you can deal. Unfortunately, we haven't done for mining what we've done so brilliantly for oil.
Okay.
So it comes to complement the point that I'm trying to make. That is why you need to have a fixed rate. You see, Evans, when you look at the scale now, and even if you take 3 different price ranges and you do a weighted average of the rate, as compared to a fixed rate of, say, 10% that you've negotiated and the company has agreed to. Evans, straight away, Ghana is going to be at a shortfall. For instance, if you take 4,000, 2,500, or say 1,200 as one, do the computation. The first one will give you about 12%, 8%, and 5%. Then stable it at 10%. When you do, if you just do a modeling of it, straight away, we are going to get 240 thereabout for the 3 price differentiations in royalty rate and about 278 for the fixed rate. Straight away, if any company is even coming in and having, say, negotiated at 10%, the person knows that when I'm going for any sort of money, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. This is what I'm going to do. Now, all the companies that do not have stability clauses in the agreement, what are they going to do? They are now going to be boxed in. Those that have carried investment in recent times, what are they going to do to those investments? Because they did a calculation of all the costs and the expenditures that they are going to incur to go in for that. And now, all of a sudden, because of one single political decision that you made a few years back, you've thrown the whole policy arrangement and governing scope of our minerals in this country, royalty, off gear.
Keeping them honest, the minority side said that when the lithium arrangement came back to Parliament for review, you said the deal was what the world was proposing was bad.
Yes.
You criticized it.
Yes.
And that you wanted government, and you forced government, in fact, government first went in and had to withdraw it.
Yes.
And then post that, consulted more broadly. And then came to the, more broadly.
Have they consulted?
Well, that's what happened.
No, that is not what has happened.
That's what happened. They withdrew it. They withdrew it from Parliament to go and consult. And you said, we told you so. You were happy at the time they did it. Now they came back, consulted, and arrived at a changed regime arrangement around the law because of the consultation. That's what you asked for.
The law that has changed is what we are discussing today. That's the sliding scale.
Yeah, but this is what you asked for.
No, we did not ask for a sliding scale.
You said you wanted more.
We wanted more. And is the sliding scale going to give you more?
Now it will.
How? You are only basing that on what price? You are basing that on gold. The argument that brought the withdrawal was on lithium.
Yeah,
now you are using gold prices.
The same. Lithium has also been...
It's going up.
It's going up.
Okay,
in fact, the projection is that lithium is going to climb up for the less
Perfect.
months.
But the argument that was made for the reduction of the lithium royalties was that the company said the prices were going down. And we told them, prices of minerals and metals on the world market goes up and down. Negotiate a fixed price, stable for the industry, not to be using that it's gone down, so we are withdrawing, we are bringing it back. And the company has asked us that we reduce the royalty rate.
No, but at the time, factually, the lithium price had collapsed compared to 2023 when the conversation first started.
No, wait.
If you compare 2023 to 2025, the collapse was 3,000 at the time, if I'm not mistaken, Steve.
It was 2,000.
It was in excess of 3,000. 3,800 there about. I remember very good. It was 800.
It was over 3,000.
About 3,000. And then it dropped all the way to 1,000.
It dropped all the way to 600.
600.
800.
Correct.
That was in
600.
2024.
Yeah.
Yes. It came to 600 and it went to 800 and it's beginning to climb up again. The company was legitimately pointing to your attention to the fact that if you were using the 2023 price, you'll be wrong. Factor in what is happening right now in the current market and use that to calculate. So if you do a sliding scale, then everybody benefits. Regardless of where the price is, they pay what is fair.
Evans, when the lithium agreement was brought for ratification, the price on the global market was 800 and not 3,000. Let's establish that. That was in October 2024.
I doubt very much.
Don't doubt it.
I mean,
this is fact.
Is that a... No, it was about 3,000.
No, Steve, you were at the committee. No, wait. When you came to the committee when we were having consultation on lithium, we pointed it out directly. I even made calculations to you. You told me at the committee that royalties are sub-zero gain. Yeah. And I calculated to you that it is not. Yeah. The country
lacks the tax.
Lacks the tax. Yeah. And I calculated to you. You agreed then. Am I right?
Yeah, but not...
So wait. So I am telling you that the price at that time, because I fact-checked and I made sure that was why the minister had to come and withdraw. Because you see, the argument that was being done then was that the prices had reduced. But I was also telling them, and we in the minority were telling them that, look, as at October 2024, when they blocked the ratification of the lithium agreement in Parliament, the prices was not 3,000, it was not 2,000, but it was hovering around 880. That is a fact. And I have all the records. So if you base your argument on current prices to do these negotiations, you just shoot the country in our feet. And that's what they've done. Currently, you see, I am sad that we are discussing this, Evans. You are now discussing this on the basis that our international partners raise concerns. Yeah. When we were raising concerns about some of these things, we should have started discussing that. I am sure we would have stemmed the tide, made broader consultation with the chamber. Now the chamber is here telling us that they went in there with a counter proposal, and all that they've had is that their counter proposal was not fully incorporated in that. And there are companies within the chamber that are going to be adversely affected by that. Are we considering that? Are we considering the long-term future of investment drive that we want to do in the mineral sector? Are we considering the loss of job that this could also occasion to the country and the loss in revenue that we are going to have? Bear in mind, the real cost of what we are going to have now, the negative effect of it, is not only about the companies that are going to top, but about the individuals, the local content that we are also going to suffer in all of this. So, Evans, for me, the minister has made the you see, that is the approach that is adopted.
Thankfully,
Same way he did
presentation. Shandov is here to respond to those. But I know NLGI did a very thorough work on this at the time. Yeah. Can you clarify for us what the world price of lithium was at the time when you did that work in 2023?
No,
if you have found it.
Yeah, no. So the price was in excess of $3,800 for spodumene, and even when the questions around the renegotiation came up, I think the company had done some feasibility study that had indicated, price around a little over $1,500 for spodumene, right? But again, this is why we are having this conversation. Let me clarify two things.
Very quickly, so I can get from...
I don't think, so for me, I think that even the debate around the royalty and how we pay it, look, the companies will adjust for it. If you take it off of top line, it has an implication on bottom line, which has an implication on how much corporate tax they'll pay if you are thinking of the effective tax rate. I think we ran these numbers at the time before we came to the conclusion that, regardless of how you dice it up somewhat, again, it's still a take of the government, right? It's a question of where you use fiscal policy to sort of apply this in a manner that is a bit more predictable. Again, on a fixed rate versus a sliding scale. Look, the debate across the world today is that countries in the global south need to find a way by which we optimize our take for minerals, period. Okay? And it's increasingly looking as though what we have to be thinking about is indexing what our take will be against the prices. Because as we speak today, geopolitical developments are going to keep the price of some commodities very, very high, except crude oil. That has this very cyclical and rapid nature by which it behaves. You take gold, good hedge against a lot of the developments macroeconomically. You have these critical minerals that are coming up, lithium, you have that. My worry with the proposition that we are discussing today and the law is that we took gold, lithium, and excluded all other minerals. But we're having conversations around bauxite today.
It's a critical mineral.
And aluminium today. We've left that at fixed 5%. I'm worried. We have the data that tells us what we should do.
There was a point in the last 3 months when silver actually also went the price.
It could go out of the roof. But we have taken these two, and I suspect lithium was fundamentally because of Atlantic Lithium deal. Yeah. Otherwise, we probably may have left that as well. Because maybe you can clarify that. What is the raison d'etre of government to say, I'm going to do gold, lithium, and then drop all the other minerals?
Bauxite, manganese.
Why?
I mean, backwards, you want to say something very quickly before I go to backwards, Steve?
No. I think we've done some work.
Okay.
That's the Ghana EITI on critical minerals, and we have identified about 6 of them that Ghana has in abundance.
Yeah.
Manganese, bauxite, silica, lithium, and then I think iron ore. We have them in abundance. So it makes sense really to have a framework that covers all your critical minerals and not to single out lithium.
Yeah. I mean, Pakwesi, let's come back to the original trigger for the conversation and what really happened, because Reuters broke that story and I see the international wires all picked it. They report that the US, Chinese governments are piling pressure on you. Diplomatic missions from UK, Canada, Australia, South Africa have all intervened, marking what 3 senior industrial executives described as an unusually high-level response to a fiscal proposal. One of them said, "This is the first time I've seen the diplomatic community get involved at this scale." Representatives from the missions met Ghana's Lands and Natural Resources Minister, your boss, this month, and they presented a joint document outlining concerns. 2 people with direct knowledge of the meeting said the group is seeking further talks with the finance minister. What really happened?
Well, so I may not be able to disclose the particular content of the series of conversations that have been had with respect.
But you can confirm this?
Yes, I can confirm that indeed over the period, in and out, the diplomatic missions come to the ministry all the time, have series of engagements on the implementation of this particular proposition. But the stance of government under the circumstances remains unchanged. And the consideration, I'll be very brief, is very simple, that government believes that as of now, we have come to a point in our national life where we have to get, if you like, maximum benefits from our mineral endowments. That is the point that we have come to. Not, of course, to just support development, I mean, across board, but even in the in the mining space. In recent times, we can all agree, and everybody around the table would, of course, affirm the fact that a menace, a threat like illegal mining, has become a canker that consistently we are dealing with. The resources to support, the fight against illegal mining, for example, has been rather very scanty. Look at the budgets of NIMOS. We've been saying that government has plans of deploying NIMOS personnel to all the relevant flashpoints across the length and breadth of the country. The cost estimate of that arrangement is well over some 250 million Ghana cedis. As we speak, really, nobody can put pen and paper and say that that money is going to be produced or taken from here or there. So just look at that alone. The fact that, yes, we have gold, we are endowed, but there is a threat confronting us. However, we are not able to find any appropriate, if you like, source to address the situation. If you look at that in our general developmental objectives, as much as we are sensitive to the concerns raised by the chamber and indeed all the relevant parties, government is sensitive, but government believes that this is the way to go in the interest of the generality.
In other words, to be more direct to the diplomatic missions, we are not withdrawing this piece of legislation.
Absolutely.
We are going ahead with implementation.
But at this point, it can't even be withdrawn.
No, but
I'm saying that if government wants to fight illegal mining, small-scale mining, the chamber has propositions. There's a way we can help government fight it without causing all this panic, because they are looking for money to do that. So how do you sit down with an industry and say, this is, even though illegal mining is not the fault of large-scale mining, we are not there. Yeah. But we support government efforts to fight illegal mining. So we are saying that the proposition that when you give us an 8%, that extra 1% that we are talking about can also be used to do that.
We have gone past that. These conversations,
No, I think we can. The law has come, but we can. There's still a lot that we can do.
Not to be condescending or dismissive, but we have listened extensively, and we have.
The ship has sailed.
Yeah, it has sailed.
There's no going back to open consultations.
Absolutely, we have come to the point, and I must add that the consultations were indeed very extensive. Yes, they were extensive. And the bill was laid on the 19th of December. Prior to that time, there were so many. I sat in so many of those meetings. So I want to affirm that they were indeed extensive. So effective tomorrow, God willing, all things being equal, the implementation will start. But I want to clarify, the stability agreement, it's only 5 mining companies that are exempted. But even them, the duration of their exemption is rather very short.
Okay.
Abosso Goldfields and Newmont Ahafo, theirs expired in December last year. Right now, the outstanding 3 are Newmont Achim, Zijin, yes, acquired by Zijin, yeah.
Zijin.
Goldfields, Takwa, and Obuasi Goldfields. So Newmont Achim, that is Zijin, would expire in 2027. Goldfields, Taka, 2027, and then Obuasi Goldfields is 2028.
I have this information here from an industry player, very significant. It says Newmont stability ended 31st December.
Yeah, it ended 31st.
31st December 2025.
Yes,
ended.
Yes, that's Newmont Ahafo.
They ended.
But Newmont Achim is 2027. So by 2028, all the agreements actually would have expired. Then all of them will be rolled on to the new agreements that would effectively take place from tomorrow. So basically, I do not have much to say from the standpoint of government. The concerns are valid, the reservations make a lot of sense, but this is where we have come to, and we believe that it would not lead to, if like, a resource flight or a disruption of the investment community. Because you see, the name is not... Akwesi was making the point that, okay, because companies would have to pay more, they would be compelled under the circumstances to lay off, staff and then cut operations and all of that. But gold, we all agree, is volatile, all right? Which means that it can also drop. Now, if it drops and we are standing on a fixed rate, and then the companies in question say that, look, the global prices have dipped significantly. However, we are being compelled to pay a rate that is huge. We are not able to meet it. That can also result in the redundancy and all of that. So the sliding is what we think rather is favorable for every party. When it is low, everybody, is able to enjoy it and absorbs it. If it goes high, everybody participates in the profit. Yeah. So,
and by the way, to be very clear, Atlantic Lithium, and this whole thing was designed because of their lithium lease agreement. They accept.
It was actually let me say it was coincidental. It was in the
it's okay. Come on. Steve having involved in it. It was nothing coincidental about it. Okay, go on. It was okay. It was coincidental.
I mean, it was already in the pipeline. No, you know that the Minerals and Mining Policy and even Act 7,
they were under review.
all of them were under review.
That's true.
So the subject of royalty was also under discussion.
Yes.
And then this came in.
But
so we can call it...
It's an interesting coincidence, seeing that when it was first laid before the House, there was no conversation around sliding scale. Yeah. It was when it was withdrawn and reintroduced that it came into play. But the point I was going to make is that Atlantic Lithium itself accepts this sliding scale wholeheartedly.
Absolutely.
Because for them, it takes into consideration price volatility.
Yeah.
Because remember the argument we were making at the beginning that, listen, the current price of lithium spodumene had collapsed. And so if you ask us to pay 10%, which was what was proposed before, you're not being fair to us. Exactly. So give us something that then sort of takes into consideration. And the projection is spodumene prices are going to go up, true or false?
Yeah, already going up.
And if it does,
they'll climb up to about 1,000.
Exactly. And if it does, Ghana benefits. But if they're going right now, then they get to pay at sort of the lower end of the band. So they accept it. That is why I come to you again. So you have the Atlantic accepting it.
And the members of the
chamber. Yeah, members of the chamber.
yes. So you see, when with sliding scale, like I said earlier, we are not against sliding scale.
It's the rate.
It's the rate.
The rate.
And the bands. Because for every $500 that go up, there's going to be 1%. If 500, 1%. So that's why we say that let's make it a larger band.
Yeah, he says it's too late, that conversation.
Yeah, so we are saying that he can say it's too late. But I mean, the president can intervene. If it's in the interest of Ghana, we can look at, because look, we are all looking at the interest of Ghana.
So you want the president to intervene?
Yeah, we'll be happy if the president can have a discussion.
Are you going to take your case to him?
But he made the proposition, though. I mean, if the executive made the proposition...
but you see, that's why there's always Abroa. You see, your father could be in the house, you talk about things, then later go and see, he can come back and say, okay.
Say on authority at this point that no intervention will prevail at this material moment.
No, you see, we are talking about this material movement, but we are looking beyond this material movement.
Material movements here.
We can have next month, next 2 months, next 2 years, next year, but we're saying that this one, there are other ways that we can do. Because look, if you're taking all this from revenue, and you keep taking from revenue, companies are going to get to a point that they might not be able to reinvest. And that's where we're talking about that. Even though we're trying to save jobs or get more money, the jobs could be affected. But working with the companies and everybody, the chamber, we could have this over a sustainable period. There will be no layoffs, there will be no those things. But you say the ship has sailed. I mean, but the ship can sail and can still be stopped.
But Pakwesi, to that point, though, considering that you have the US, you have China, you have UK, all sending envoys to you, that poses a different kind of threat, does it not? Because you know Trump. And this is all happening under, once this comes into his attention, and I'm raising this, that the first time I saw it on Reuters, that's the first thing that came to mind. Because you see him play that game elsewhere. That if you do not play the game that protects the interests of the US locally, there possibly could be sanctions and repercussions for us. Has the government thought about that? Has your boss thought about that potential?
Of course. There's a lot of geopolitics in here, and so we are very mindful of those possibilities, how that there could be policies to tie the hands of governments to do things that otherwise it would not do. But when we get to those places, I'm sure would cross. Indeed, the minister has contemplated it. I mean, today, for example, he had an extensive meeting with the Minerals Commission to look at all of these things. And so we are anticipating they may come, but until they do, the status quo remains.
Stephen and Steve, address that point for me. When you first read that story, and he's confirmed that indeed it happened, considering the kinds of superpowers at play here, UK, US, China, and the representations you're making. They don't start this particular advocacy the way they've done it if they don't have an end game in mind. And government says, well, we're going to go ahead and do it in a way. It doesn't end there. We haven't heard the last of this. You have any concerns on the back of what we're seeing from the US, China, UK, and others?
No, you see, the question of commodities has always been a subject of geopolitical considerations, whether we like it or not, right? So whether the government has thought about it or not, at some point, some pressure is going to be mounted by private sector actors who have an interest and represent a certain country's, geopolitical interest of the country, and they may want to make certain determinations, right? So it's a very fine balance that needs to be struck at this point. Having said that, the reality as well that we should be alive to, Evans, is that all across the world, the question is being asked, what do countries in the global south need to do to properly manage their mineral governance sector and crucially benefit a bit more? The question of how you navigate that benefit has always been a subject of question. Some may use taxes, and we're having a lot of conversations around what this will mean. I'm going to say one final. I think here's what may help the Chamber's cause, and we are more than happy to work with the Chamber on this. At least we know that gold price, if gold is a problem now, I would prefer they can do this for all the commodities in question. But if gold is the problem now, say we know for the next 5 years what the projected prices of gold will be, which means you are likely going to fall within a 12% royalty regime. Run that against the current operations of some mines and throw the numbers out publicly to say this will cost us X amount and this is what the likely implications are. Then we are more than happy to have a policy, like a data-informed policy proposition. And if the government needs to walk back, I don't think they're not going to walk back if the data says this.
No, but I think we have search information. We have a position paper on this that we have shared widely, which indicates what the implications are. I mentioned a company that was going for investment, another company. So we have all those.
No, but I think the point in making is to be more granular, because I, for example, wanted to touch on how many jobs are at risk, for example, if you model this over 5 years and say this X for this company, all your members. Because it won't apply, it won't be the same for every company.
That's why I said some selected.
And give us very clear.
We can do
what
selected.
We can do that. To work with the
we can do that. We are not averse.
To say that if we are at the 12% rate,
what this means,
this is what it means for the operations of XYZ mines that are contributing, say, 30-40% of the output.
Yeah.
If we fall within, if the prices decline and we get to fall within, the 10% band, this is what it means. If we simulate that, and this is very easy to do, so long as the data is available, then I can go and press Wakusi's neck and say the data says this. Yeah. And so we need to make sure we don't lose jobs and ultimately lose what revenue for the country will be. But if we are not doing that, I think we will do ourselves a great disservice as far as this conversation is concerned. But crucially, the position of government is not going to be one that moves. And I think that when the lithium conversation broke out 2-3 years ago, one of the things we did was to go through the pain. In fact, in that agreement, there was a further proposition that would do downstream processing of, lithium, and nobody had actually thought through the numbers. We ran through the numbers, and it looked like, look, we are going to have to cough up an extra $480 to $500 million to be able to do downstream processing. Turns out 3 years down the line, the company, after prices have collapsed, now acknowledges. And then that, gets validated. So there's that level of data and insight that I think where we have gotten to, at least sliding scale is there.
Yeah.
For me, it looks like what the standard practice may eventually look like. Look, if you look across the sub-region today, every country that is a major producer is thinking like that. Yeah. Some are increasing the royalty
Now that
rates.
you've brought up that point, though, there's also the other point that has been raised by the mining firms, that this will put us at the top of the effective rate of taxes on mining companies in the whole of the continent.
No, so I'm not questioning that. In fact, we had pointed to that effective rate computation of 60-68% in a piece of work we did 3 years ago.
Yeah.
But if you take the royalty alone, okay, we are likely playing in the region of some of the countries that are charging very, very high today.
Like which?
Mali's one.
Mali is about 10.
Okay, Mali is 10.
And at the moment
Mali was not doing 10 before.
We are 12. We are 12, about 13. Yeah. So we are still the highest.
No, I don't dispute that. I'm saying we are part of the countries that in the last 24 months have gone this route. And that is following a certain narrative that says the countries that are owning these minerals need to get a lot more. When Mali did this, companies didn't shut off. I know they've signed a couple of agreements.
No, they had to. There was a lot of discussion on it. Okay. Walking back and
so you think there was a lot of consultation?
Yes, and walking back on it. And companies who tried it and kept Tanzania and they came back. So that's saying that. But if government works with the industry, we don't have to go and come. We are looking for revenue. So how much do you get? How do you get that revenue without toppling the cat or whatever it is?
Fair point.
So that's what I'm saying, that we have done, like a company that has gone for that money. It's talking about 1,300 people are going to lose their jobs if they are not able to find a way around it. So getting the revenue, you can get the revenue even on profit. If you want to get more, why don't you tax the profit? Why are you taxing just the revenue?
The capital.
So that's what this is doing. It's taxing revenue. Everything is revenue. And the profit, and Ghana also pays 35%. As among the highest.
Steve, please address this geopolitical question for me, considering what is happening that Pakwesi has confirmed. He's told our government position is on the matter. We're not going to listen to the superpowers. Can we prevail in the face of superpower pushback?
I doubt.
Okay.
I doubt. Definitely, when the pressure mounts, we'll have to succumb. We're a small country, and I don't think we can stand the pressure from these big powers. But in the interim, I can foresee a lot of tax avoidance happening within the industry. Already, our tax collection in the industry is not very effective. As far back as 2015, then Minister Tepe went to Parliament and declared that henceforth we are going to collect our mineral royalty on monthly basis, because the current position of the law is that they pay on quarterly basis. To date, we have not amended the relevant regulation to give effect to that pronouncement.
But companies are paying, some companies are paying
but they are
on monthly basis, in goodwill.
Yeah, voluntarily.
Monthly basis.
Some are paying. That's how lousy we can be. And again, the various mining companies are required to submit their work program to the regulator at the beginning of the year. The regulator does not routinely share this work program with the tax authorities. So if there are plans for some transfer pricing manipulations, there is no way the tax authorities will get to know. And these have happened. In the petroleum sector, it happened in the construction of the Atuabo gas processing facility, where I personally investigated, and it led to the recovery of 16 million potentially lost tax to the state. And so we have weaknesses in our tax administration. And I can see companies now using creative accounting and other ways to kind of cope with the current situation.
I think
they said they are good citizens.
I think we are the chamber's members. We are responsible companies. We will not do anything illegal. No. But you see, we don't have to do an illegality when the legal process.
Avoidance is not illegality.
Akwesi, if you look at the benefits of this to the economy, I mean, if you were in government, you'd be on government side on the matter, because this fundamentally gives us more money in our coffers.
In the short term.
And I'm just...
let's qualify it in the short term.
And I'm just looking right now at Burkina Faso. Burkina Faso has government takes 8% royalty payment for production at gold prices between 3,000 and 3,500 an ounce, increasing by 1% for each incremental $500 an ounce rise in prices. So this is similar.
But they don't have GSL, you know.
In addition to this,
they don't have GSL. So most of the companies don't have. Most of the companies don't even have GSL. So you have to factor in the GSL.
But government has assured you they're going to do something about the GSL.
I mean,
Pakwesi, can you update us on where we are with
GSL? So just recently, was it Marriott, when the finance minister met the chamber? Right, he assured that
that's where he made that.
Yes, I'm saying so that assurance would be
it will come.
It will accompany this.
Possibly mid-year budget review statement they made.
You have a law that has kicked in today, and you are telling the chamber that you have an assurance for them in the future. No, you see the problem. The law has kicked in today, and you are telling the chamber you have an assurance for them in the future. They are asking you. You said your position won't change. You said you are not even budging under geopolitical pressure. You understand? Yeah. So it tells you that, one way or the other, you've moved a position from one particular resource and you are trying to transposition that on all other resources. Do you know why you took out bauxite and the rest? Bauxite and magnesium. These are high volume minerals, but of low value. Haulage alone will take everything away.
Yeah.
So you see what I'm trying to say? You are only focusing on one particular mineral which are spiked in prices, and trying to use that across all the minerals. Now, the mining, Chamber of Mines and the mining companies are going to suffocate under this. That is why I have said, and will continuously say, Chando, whatever you do, these are individual companies. Now, You've brought local and indigenous companies together with all of these foreign companies. So if you are going on street basis, contract basis, even royalties for local companies could have even been 2%. And that could not even have hurt the country. Because the extent of money that would have been left in the economy without repatriation of even profit would have been beneficial to the country. So you don't go on these mathematical calculations and tell us that it is done.
To be clear, the opposition is not opposed to the sliding scale policy.
No, you see, Evans.
Or because the chamber is very clear. They're not opposed, but their concern is the rate.
The ban rate.
So what exactly is their position?
The position of the minority will be made. But the point I am making here is that we negotiated an agreement that gave this country 10%. 10%
for lithium.
For lithium. Yeah. They said that was an illegality. And that has brought us where we are.
But that was true, though.
It wasn't. Evans, I mean, we can go...
it
was.
It was. I mean, the Minerals Mining Act was... If
you ask me a question, I must...
No, there are matters of fact, right? I mean...
It is not a matter of fact. If you ask me a question, let me answer.
Okay, briefly.
When you point out something doesn't make it right, that you are right and I'm wrong. No. Wait. The agreement that was signed could not become an agreement without ratification under 268.
Absolutely.
Do you understand?
That's right.
So whatever the allies, whatever the acts are, the Constitution is supreme. Yeah. What you and I agree and brought to Parliament and stamped on becomes the law. So if a company agrees to 10% and is ratified under 268 of our Constitution, you cannot come to tell me it's an illegality. The act is subservient to the Constitution. So let us not go, you pointing to somebody makes it illegal. No. The point that you pointed to somebody doesn't make it illegal. That is why I'm telling you, if you have good negotiating skills, you don't need these mathematical calculations and be boasting in front of all of these pressures that are coming on you. You've made an error because of the positions that you took in 2024, and you want to redeem that, and that is why you brought us where we are.
Honorable, are you aware that in Australia, government had to provide financial support to lithium companies because of the falling prices?
But are you aware that the price of gold, now that is going to suffer the sliding scale, was not 5,100 in 2 years back?
It wasn't.
So are you aware the price of gold will not be stable at 5,100 or 5,200?
But the sliding scale takes care of it.
So wait, so you don't come and use that argument only as a basis of justifying the sliding scale?
No, I'm making the point.
So I'm also making the point to you. Right. Don't use one single situation now to justify that, and use another situation somewhere that required that there was a support that ought to have been given to justify your claim. That is what I'm telling you.
Okay.
Don't put everything together as one.
And just to wrap up, Ahmed.
Yes.
What are you going to do tomorrow? I mean, your job is to advocate for your members. I'm just curious.
Yes.
Are you reaching out to the president, you reaching out to the minister, or are you just going to simply go ahead and start paying?
No,
what do you have planned?
We'll continue to advocate for government to see reason. Because he keeps smiling. But you see, we went to Indaba, we went to PDAC, Prospectors and Development Association. We are looking for investment.
Okay.
Right? So when you tell them you're looking for investment, there should be something that's making the person to come. The person comes and says, I won't listen. Then the signal you are saying to the next person is that this country, when you go in there, after you have put your money in there, you have spent $1 billion in the country, the next day they'll get up and say, rent in Matum. It's like a local landlord after hiring the house. And that's where
I think there's too much emphasis on the financial input that, for investors. They don't just look at that. Okay, if investors would come into the country, beyond the monetary considerations, they are looking at an atmosphere, climate that is very business friendly, that is convivial. There is political
investments will go where they have to go. Like nobody will go to Burkina.
All of those are factors. Okay. And so it is not so much about just the cost. But if it's just 30 seconds, I want to touch on the additional revenue that we would be getting effective April till the end of the year. We're looking at about 3.2 billion Ghana cedis. That is additional revenue.
Based on what we start with. Okay. Shandov, Ahmed, Steve Mattel, Akwesi, and Stephen, thank you all for
You asked the chamber what they will do. I just suggested to the chamber that we
should do some
If
But that is something I will talk about.
we are
even without
over,
the
if Standard tells us we are overemphasizing on the financials, why is the minister now going in to reduce the GSL?
Our time is up.
If it's not financial,
Are you the host now?
Enjoy the rest of the evening.